So, welcome everyone. Today it's Tuesday again, and it's time for the presentation of nations. Uh, Sadly, it's the last Tuesday of the semester, so we also have the last presentation today. But I hope you will still enjoy the same as the previous ones. So this evening you will be able to see the presentation of Sri Lanka. But before I start, or before Kavinda starts with the presentation, let me tell you some ESN information about our upcoming events and some challenges. So tomorrow at 7 p.m., there will be a stream from the evaluation of all the presentations of nations. The ESNer were closely watching all the presentations and we're evaluating them with some points. So tomorrow we will announce the winners of the best presentation of nations. So don't forget to watch it. And there will be also a small recap of the presentations with some funny moments. So don't miss it. Also, there will be a stream on our Instagram called Erasmus during pandemic. So we'll discuss why it's better to go on Erasmus now rather than never. So yeah, it will take place on a Thursday at 6 p.m. and the stream will be streamed on our Instagram account. Uh, Also, there is this like project called The Smell of Christmas, and we are slowly adding some various photos and videos to show you how the Christmas in the Czech Republic looks like. But to make it more enjoyable, we would like to ask you to also share what's typical in your country or at your household, and how do you celebrate the Christmas. So the last thing I want to tell you about is the multiple challenges that we had for you. And this week is the challenge expectation versus reality tech version. So we would like you to share with us like what were your expectations before you came on Erasmus BRNO and what was the actual reality. So all the important info you can find as always on the Facebook group, and I think that's all for me for now. And I would like to welcome Kavinda with the presentation of Sri Lanka.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kandy and I'm from Sri Lanka. So, therefore, I'm going to present to you about England. Just kidding, guys. It's about Sri Lanka. We were part of Commonwealth, but not anymore. In 1972, we became an independent country, and by then it was known as Ceylon, and today it is known as Sri Lanka. So, I would like to warmly welcome you to Sri Lanka. Well, I think most of you have heard about the name Sri Lanka, but I think only few of you know where Sri Lanka is. So I would like to present you a challenge. Try to find Sri Lanka on this world map. I'll give you like about 3 seconds. Well, some of you might have found the right place, and some of you don't might have not. So congratulations to the people who found it, and you guys are now honorary Sri Lankan citizens. And people who didn't, shame on you. So I think most of you will be able to find where India is. So Sri Lanka is the small island hanging at the edge of the India. And you can see on the left picture, it is a close-up map of Sri Lanka. And you can see the flag of Sri Lanka at the bottom of the slides. So here are some infographics about Sri Lanka. So on the top left, you can see the biggest city in Sri Lanka, which is Colombo. And on the bottom, you can see our parliament, which is in the capital. And it is pretty much long name. And it is pronounced as Sri Jayawardhanapura Kotte. And Sri Lanka itself is much smaller country and smaller compared to Czech Republic. and but its population is 2 times of Czech Republic. So here I have some frequently asked questions on Google. So the first question is, or was Sri Lanka part of India? I don't know who asked it and why asked it, but the answer is no, it was never, and I think it will never be. So the second question is Sri Lanka poor? Well, compared to Europe, most of the Sri Lanka is poor, but believe me, guys, no one is dying in hunger over there. And is Sri Lanka safe to visit? Well, of course, it is safe. And is Sri Lankan food spicy? Well, some of the food is spicy, but generally not all of them. And the last question I found most frequent was, is Sri Lanka beautiful? Well, at the end of the presentation, you will decide it. So, languages in Sri Lanka. So, in Sri Lanka, there are two main official languages, and one is Sinhalese, and other one is Tamil. On this clip, we can see on the top is scripture is Sinhalese, and on the right side it is written in Tamil, and this is the way of we greet, and it is pronounced as Ayubowan. But if you visit Sri Lanka, you will find it very easy to communicate with the locals because most of the Sri Lankans they understand the basic English. In Sri Lanka, we have two methods of greetings. So on the left side, this is how we greet our relatives, but which are elder than us. And on the right side, you can see how we greet our strangers. But greeting the elders and relatives is a pain in the neck because I have like about 40 aunties and uncles. So when they come in my house, it's not easy to greet all of them. So, what does people in Sri Lanka wear? And there are a lot of dresses that people wear in Sri Lanka, and it is uh, um, evolved with the climate of Sri Lanka. So, the sarong is one of the popular clothes that Sri Lankans wear, and osari is something similar to sari, which is famous, but it has different qualities with saris. And also, kurta and salwar is very famous in Sri Lanka. So Sri Lankan also have special costumes for the special ceremonies. So these are the costumes that Sri Lankans wear for the occasions such as weddings and stuff. And I would like to present you another challenge. Try to find myself in one of these pictures. I'll give you about 3 seconds again. Well, obviously, I'm on the top picture and on the right side with a pair of glasses. Well, I didn't married. Obviously, it was not a gang marriage, but it is a tradition in Sri Lanka that the groom has supporting members on the wedding day just to take pictures and stuff. And also, there are some cultural rituals that we should help him to do. So here's a fun fact about Sri Lanka. So Sri Lanka is the country with the second highest public holidays. Why we have so much of holidays? Well, the answer is Sri Lanka is a multicultural society, so which means that every holiday of each religion is a holiday in Sri Lanka too, and also it becomes uh, more holidays because of the each month, each first day of the each month when the full moon is over, it's a holiday in Sri Lanka. And also, Sri Lanka is the second largest cinnamon export in the world. So, if you are a fan of cinnamon, you might have consumed the cinnamon from Sri Lanka. So, the festivals about Sri Lanka, there are a lot of festivals in Sri Lanka. So, the first festival is the Sri Lankan New Year. So, in Sri Lanka, we celebrate the New Year on 14th of April, and usually we celebrate it for like 1 week. So what we do for this New Year when it's arrived is that we put some milk on the pot and we put the fire until it bursts out of the pot. So Sri Lankans believe when the milk is burst out of the pot, it's going to be a lucky year for them. Well, some people believe it, but some people do not. So what else we do? We do something called first transaction of the year. So this is really interesting. Like people just exchange money without no reason, just to each other. And usually, when the elders exchange money with the younger people does not have to give elders back money if they are not working. So the youngest member in the family will be the richest guy at the end of the new year because he will be having money from everyone. And also, we have some game festivals. we have pillow fighting, but the way that we do pillow fighting is a bit different. We just fight it on the top of a coconut trunk, and some people just decorate their houses as shown in the image. This is not a game, but it's sort of because people try to make their house more beautiful than the other people's house. So next is a video clip about pillow fighting. So please enjoy. So, and also there are a lot of other games. Tug of war is really famous in Sri Lanka, and this game on the right side we call it climbing race, but it is difficult to climb because they have put grease on the trunk. So, as the grease is much more slippery, it is really difficult to climb. And the top of this trunk there is a flag, and the person who take it first wins the game. And it is much interesting to watch it too. So what else we do for the new year? We make definitely a food table, and this food table is full of sweets. Everything is sweet over here, and we keep it for like 1 week in our house without removing it, because when the relatives comes, we offer the relatives these sweets. So the next most famous festival is the Vesak festival, and this is really famous among the Buddhists in Sri Lanka, because Buddhists celebrate the full moon of the month May, and they believe that the Buddha was born and died on the same day. I mean, not on the same year, and Buddha got enlightened on the same day. So Sri Lankans, they decorate their houses by using lights, and they make lanterns as shown in the right side of right picture. So people make them, and they hang them in front of their houses. And also people tend to meditate on the day of Vesak, and also you can find a lot of free food stalls on the day of Vesak. I mean, there are many free food stalls. So if you visit Sri Lanka in the month of May, you can eat for free for like 1 week, and the food is really good too, as shown in this picture. And also there are other more decorating stuff that Sri Lankan people do to celebrate Vesak. And this is my favorite festival. We call it Perhar Festival. This is done to welcome the rain. They do it for continuously 10 days. In some cities, they do it for 1 month, and it depends from place to place. What they do is basically they have something called sacred tooth relic, which is like a really important artifact from Lord Buddha himself. It is like about 2,500 years old, and they make it parade around the city, and this parade lasts about 2 hours. So following is a quick video to show what does it looks like in moving pictures. Well, here's another fun fact about Sri Lanka. Did you know that the world's first female prime minister is from Sri Lanka? And you can see her on this picture. And her name is very long, as like mine too. It's pronounced as Sirimavo Ratwatta Dias Bandaranaike. And there's another fun fact. Did you know that the oldest planted tree in the world is in Sri Lanka? This is really important artifact for the Buddhists. And Buddhists, they treat it with much more respect to this tree, because they believe that the Buddha had obtained his wisdom under this tree. So dancing about Sri Lanka. In Sri Lanka, we have a lot of traditional dancings. Uh, Like there are more than about 20 different dancing styles in Sri Lanka. So here are two famous dancing styles. On the left picture is a dancing style that is done in central part of Sri Lanka, and on the right side you can see a dancing style of performing black magic. So dancing styles are used to perform black magic too, and they do insane stuff with this. But some people again believe it, some people does not. And also the dancing style, which is Kandian on the left side, people use it as a medical method to treat mentally ill people too. So these dancing styles are performed by both men and women. So following video is a dancing performed by some women in Sri Lanka.
ලලිත රාග නේර්ත ගීත පංච අංග ලක්ෂණම් තක්කු ජික්කු තක්කු ජිකු තක තජිත් තාල ලක්ෂණම්
Now I would like to talk about some sports in Sri Lanka. Cricket is the most popular sport in Sri Lanka, and they are really good on this. And they have been two times world champions in uh, in this sport. And next, netball is really famous too, and they are really good on this. They, I think, right now they are the world 18th ranked best netball team in the world. And also there are some sports like carom. It's not much internationalized, but some part of the world they play it. It is something like more billiard, a pool, but playing with the hand. And I found out that even in Czech Republic they have a team of carom, and they are participating in the World Cup too. And rugby is a popular sport too, but they haven't been achieving good in international level. So here's another fun factor. In Sri Lanka, it was they made the biggest artificial Christmas tree. And why Christmas tree? Yes, there are Christians in Sri Lanka too. As I said, this is a multicultural society. Like 10% of the population is about Christians, and the rest is like Muslims, Hindus, and the majority is about Buddhist. So next, I would like to talk about the most favorite part, the food. So let's talk about for the traditional food. Mostly the traditional food in Sri Lanka is made out of vegetables, but right now we need to introduce the Sri Lankan food into the tourists. They add much more meat, eggs, and stuff like that. So in the picture you can see the food known as egg hopper. So in the middle of this food is much of like a pancake, and on the top of it you can find the egg. On the around it, it is a crust which is like really crispy, and usually you eat it with some kind of curry or sambal. And next, you will find string hoppers on the left side, and this in order to make these string hoppers is really hard. It takes a lot of time to do it, but it's really good. And also we eat this with coconut sambal. Sambal is like something cream made out of coconut. You can see it on the top orange color thing. And also we make potatoes with coconut milk, and it is really famous too. Also rice and curry is really famous all around the world, and almost every South Asian country they eat rice and curry. And as I said, usually in the local houses, they eat as vegetarians, but right now it's changing. On the bottom right side, you can see the food thosai, and in Sri Lanka, in the northern part of Sri Lanka, this food is really famous. Again, they make cream out of different stuff, and you can eat with them. And also, they make cream out of yogurt too, and it's really good. So next about the sweets, in Sri Lanka we have a lot of sweets, different kind of sweets. So cookies is something like real biscuits, but the outer covering is so thin. So it's like eating much of boiled fried potatoes. And on the right side, you will find Sri Lankan version of the cakes, but they are much of like pancakes. And on the bottom is we have alua. We call it alua. It is like much of biscuits. So what else? Okay, we have another kind of sweet. It's called mooncake. I don't have something much similar over here to give idea about it, but it is kind of sweet, and it is made by frying in the oil. On the right side, you can find rice, but the specialty about this rice is that they cook it with the coconut milk. So this one is like, I mean, eating rice with milk, but it's really good. But usually this milk rice is made in special occasions, not every day. We don't eat it every day. So when something really special happen to a family, people make this to celebrate it. So about the fast foods, Sri Lanka has a good name on fast food, and they are really cheap. You can buy like lunch for more than less than half of euro in Sri Lanka. So this food, it is usually made out of carrot leaves and usual vegetables, but the important ingredient is that they use paratha, which is something like bread, but it is much of like tortilla, but it's big in the size. So the best another famous thing about this food is that how they make it. So usually they drum the food, and it's so nice to watch it. So following video is about how they make it. So the next famous fried rice food is fried rice, fast food, and we were able to recreate this masterpiece in our dorms. And here is a picture that how we did it and how good it is. You can see the picture of Matthias searching for more rice, and he's just jumping in the pot to take more rice. And in Sri Lanka, we eat with hand. This is really important. No one use utensils. No one use forks or spoons. So eating with hand is really important. Otherwise, people judge on you. And there's also manners on eating with hand. Like there are some steps that you need to follow and things that you should not do while eating with the hand. So in Sri Lanka, people drink tea regularly, and also milk tea. Milk tea is really famous. In Sri Lanka, another famous thing is coconut. But this one we call it king coconut because there's a difference between coconut and king coconut. The difference is in the taste as well as the outer look. The king coconut is orange color, and usually the coconut is green color. And also you can drink it, and also you can eat the flesh inside the coconut, as you can see on the left top picture. There, this guy is eating the flesh of the coconut. So in Sri Lanka, we don't drink much of coffee, and it's drunk only for the stomach aches. When we have bad stomach ache, we drink coffee, and we are not a fan of beers. And but in Sri Lanka, there are a lot of rum, and this rum is made up of coconut again. Yeah, coconut is like the life of Sri Lanka. Everything's made up of coconut. And next, about the tourist attractions, this is what it is famous around the world. The first one is about the Sigiriya Fortress. This thing was able to win us the quiz night too, because there was a question from in the quiz night about this thing. And this is an old fortress in Sri Lanka. It was built 2,000 years ago, and but this is right now. It is in the middle of the jungle, and there are no humans living around it. And what is really important on this thing is that, as you can see on the right top picture, There was a head of lion on the top of the structure, but today you can see only the legs of the lion, but the head is broken now. And it was really beautiful. It is really beautiful to visit and see these structures. So the next famous attraction is the Kandy temple. Earlier it was the Kandy palace. It was the palace of the last king of Sri Lanka. Now it is used as a Buddhist temple, and it is one of the UNESCO heritage sites. This is the place where they keep the tooth of Buddha, because in Sri Lanka we have a relic of Buddha, which is extracted when the Buddha had died, and it has given much protection to protect it out. So next, about Anuradhapura. This is our oldest capital in Sri Lanka. Right now, there are no people living in the city too, but there are a lot of amazing structures to go see and visit them. And also, I would like to talk about the picture on the left at the bottom. This is an stupa. We call it a stupa. Usually, we cannot see how big this building is, but to say the height of this building is like 2 times the height of our domes. They are really high, and they are really large. When you go near it, you can feel how big it is. These are used mainly by Buddhists. They use them as worship places, and usually on the full moon days in Sri Lanka, these places are really full, and on other days no one is over there. So about the natural attractions, and Sri Lanka has very good natural attractions. So these pictures are from the central part of Sri Lanka, and usually the central part of Sri Lanka is the best temperature, is like between 14 and 25, and a lot of local tourists visit these places and enjoy their free time. And also they have a lot of natural pools, uh, and these pools are free to bath, and no one is charging or something like that. And, this is one of the best things. So beaches are really famous in Sri Lanka. So these are two famous beaches in Sri Lanka: Marble Beach and Nilavela Beach. Why they call it Marble Beach is because when you go nearby the beach, it looks like as marble on the bottom, because there are no big waves in this beach. So a lot of families with young kids, they come here to take a bath because it's safe to have a shower in this place. So the next is a video about the other tourist attractions. So please enjoy it. Yes. Well, I like to give you some tips if you're visiting Sri Lanka. So a lot of tourists they come to Sri Lanka in the season, which is from July to September. But the best things to see in Sri Lanka is in the off-time season. So it is from April to June. And also a lot of tourists who visit Sri Lanka, they book a tour guide. But in my opinion, if you need to see the true beauty in Sri Lanka and true culture, you should use public transportation and you should travel by yourself. And don't be afraid to speak to the locals. They are really kind, and almost everyone they speak English. And a lot of tourists does not visit the village sites, but if you go to the village sites you can see how the local peoples live day-to-day life, because what you see in the city and what you see in the local area is really different. It's different from what one to each other. And also the one in the picture in the train, Sri Lankas we travel in weird ways, and we are really good on calisthenics with trains. But some tourists they try to do follow the same trend and end up dying. So don't do this if you're not so confident with that. And at last, I would like to tell, if you travel to Sri Lanka, try to contact the people you know in Sri Lanka, because it's really helpful. Because as Sri Lanka is new for the tourism industry, much of the places that you can visit is not online. So only the local people knows where to visit and the good places you can see. So at last, the most important thing in my opinion, the people in Sri Lanka. People in Sri Lanka is really welcoming and generous, and they are really kind. And but the only downside, they are really proud of themselves. And if you are tourist in Sri Lanka, you will be treated as a god, because Sri Lankans they always happy to welcome strangers and offer them a welcoming food, welcoming drink, and stuff like this. So that's the end of my presentation. So I would like to thank everyone who was with me until the end of the presentation. So thank you very much.
So thanks, Kavinda, for the nice presentation. Honestly, I didn't know much about this country before, so I'm like really glad you managed to do a presentation of, I would say, exotic country for most of us. And yeah, you also really made me quite hungry seeing all the tasty food. And yeah, so thank you for the presentation again. And since this was the last presentation, there should be the place for like some the sentimental words and thanking to all the members of the Presentation of Nations team and all the presenters. But I want to leave this evening happy, and we will leave these words for tomorrow, where will be also the recapitulation of all the best parts of the presentations and the overall evaluation and announcement of the winners of the presentations. So don't forget to connect also tomorrow at 7 p.m. and see you then.